Next heading on agreements with certainty. Agreements with certainty. When we talk about the validity of the contract, we were discussing about the 10 essentials needed for a contract to be a valid one. You remember? Next heading on agreements with certainty. So, one such essential, the ninth point in my listing is certainty and possibility of performance. So, we are going to discuss about the agreements with certainty. If it is not certain, that is uncertain means the agreement will be void. Okay, void from the beginning, void ab initio. What do you mean by agreements with certainty? It should be certain with the terms. It should be certain with the consideration. We have already seen the consideration. What do you mean by consideration? Something in return. The promise, exchange of promises. When we say certain, the object should be certain, which is the subject matter of the contract, and also the related facts. Everything should be certain. Appada pakkava irukum. Okay. Example, beautiful example. Probably, if you get this heading for the exam, I request you to write the same example because sometimes you will get confused with certainty and consensus certitude. You have to be very clear in that. Okay. When you say certainty, it should be related to terms or consideration or object or something like that. When we talk about consensus certitude, you remember the two horse problem? X has two horses, one white in color and one black in color. X had in the mind to sell white horse. Y had in the mind to buy black horse. Okay, not of the same mind. But when we talk about certainty, we are talking about the term should be certain, the consideration should be certain, everything. The details of the contract should be certain. So you need not write your own examples. Please try to fix with these examples alone. Let me go for the first one. A agrees to sell to B 100 tons of oil. Which oil? You don't know which oil they are talking about. So it's not certain. Second, A, who is a dealer in coconut oil only, agrees to sell to B 100 tons of oil. This is clear. He is dealing only coconut oil. கடையில போயிட்டு oil வேணும்னு கேட்டா அவன் எந்த oil கேட்பான். It's not certain. He is only dealing with coconut oil. Okay, so what happens here? I am asking for 100 tons of oil, which is understood because he is a seller of only coconut oil. It's certain. Third, A agrees to sell to B 100 tons of rice at a price to be fixed by C. See, we are talking about a consideration also. Who can fix the consideration? Remember, it may move from the promiser or from the promisee or any third party or at reasonable price. So here the two parties of the contract are A and B. But what he says, A agrees to sell to be 100 tons of rice at a price to be fixed by C. C is some other third party. Yes, law says it's valid. Consideration fixed by the third party is also valid. But A and B has to say okay. Fourth, A agrees to sell to B. Okay, what he says. My white horse for 5,000 or 10,000. What வாங்கி பார்க்கலாம். It's not that way, right? உங்களுக்கு என்ன வேணும்னு உங்களுக்கு தானே தெரியும். So 5,000 or 10,000. You have to fix it and you have to convey to me. So it's void. Void in which case? Uncertainty in price. Again, the consideration. Fifth, A agrees to sell to B all the grains in his granary at Ramnagar. Please highlight this fifth example. You may ask me, ma'am, it's given all the granaries. We don't know what's the quantity, how much it weighs, what is the number of tons is there in the granary. But still, law says is valid. ஏன்னா அங்க இருக்கிறது எல்லாமே சொல்லியாச்சுன்னா we are not talking about the weight, we are not talking about the other measurements and all. What and all we are talking about? Only the grains, what and all present over. But the price may be fixed after weighing the grains. That's different. But law says it's valid. When we say all the grains is valid. Okay. So please make a note of the fifth point, fifth example. Sixth one, A agrees to sell to B some garments. No. Yes, there is no mention about what type, what quality, what quantity. Terms are not certain, so it is void. Seventh point, P says to Q, I will sell you a camera. This is a very, very important thing. I'll sell you a camera. P owns 3 different types of camera of various prices. He's not telling which camera he's going to sell. Enna mention pandறாரு? A camera. See the one example. Here you can find it. The white horse and black horse example. Let me go for this example, then I'll come back there. Under consensus addendum, this is quite a famous example. X owned 2 horses, one black and other white. Okay. He is not saying that I will sell any one of the houses. Please make a note. X is not saying I will not sell any one of the horses or houses. What he says, he offered to sell one horse to Y. Okay. X offered for black horse, Y accepted for white horse. No consensus agreement. But whereas if we talk about certainty, the seventh point, the seventh example, he tells that I will sell you a camera. He's not giving the a clear description about the camera. So this is uncertain. Okay, so that's about our discussion with respect to consensus agreement and certainty. Okay, so the explanation here, probably we can make a note of it. The mind of the offeree is not the same as the offerer. But whereas in the case of certainty, there is no certainty in price as stated because it's given as 5,000 or 10. Is it okay? That's about agreements with certainty. Can you please go through one? 2.7 contingent contracts and wagering agreements. You might be wondering why these two headings, something like new we have here. Before continuing, I request you to go for the next heading. What's the next heading? Void agreement. Okay, we'll just combine both. We have already discussed in detail what do you mean by void agreement. What do you mean by void agreement? Void from the beginning. It will never be a contract. Under which cases? Yes, we have already discussed. Under which cases? Agreement made by minor. Void agreement. Because incapable. Not only by minor, but also unsound minded persons. Okay, not capable. So void. Void agreement. Okay. Agreements made under a mutual mistake of fact, which is bilateral mistake. That's also void. Void agreement. One, two, three. Agreements where the consideration or the object of which is unlawful, completely unlawful, or unlawful in part and is not severable. You cannot separate it. Okay, together on a part. Yes, it's void because unlawful. Consideration should be lawful and object also should be lawful. Okay. Fourth point, agreements made without consideration. We have this famous phrase. What is that? No consideration, no contract. Okay. Fifth one, agreements in restraint of marriage or trade or legal proceedings. This is following from lawful object. Okay. Again, it's not restraint means it becomes unlawful. So we call this as void. Okay. Sixth one, just now we are seeing this topic. Agreements, the meaning of which is uncertain. If there is no certainty, void. Void agreement. Seventh, agreements by way of wager. This is what we are going to discuss. Eighth, agreements contingent on impossible events. The 7 and 8 so far we have not discussed. Now we have to go for this heading. Okay. Ninth point, agreements to do impossible acts. No possibility of performance. Void. 10th, reciprocal promise will be there, like give and take, and one happens to be illegal. Void. So how many points under void agreement we have? Totally 10 points. And this last one is also talking about illegality. Okay. What is this? Seventh and eighth. That's about the earlier topic. Paklama? Yes, please join. Contingent contracts and wagering agreements. Definition is important. Please join. I'll go word by word. Contingent contract. See, it's quite very important. I'm going word by word. Okay. What do you mean by contract? Okay. We know the essentials of a contract. What do you mean by contingency? Which is something may or may not happen, may or may not take place. Okay. That's what we say contingency. Here, actually, we are going to discuss two contents. One is with respect to contingency and another one with respect to wagering. When we use the word contingency, we'll be using along with the word contract. Whereas if we talk about wagering, we say it's agreement. So somewhat we know what is contingency may or may not happen, only fine. What do you mean by wagering is, see, let me play a game, okay, like tossing. Or என்னென்ன விளையாடுவோம்ல லைக் போலீஸ் திருடனா விளையாடிருக்கீங்களா? We'll have a chit papers. We'll take one chit paper. நீங்க police, Raja, Rani, இந்த மாதிரிலாம். You might have played this game like that completely comes out of luck only. What the paper you pick up, okay. So obviously it comes. That's like random number picking, random paper picking. If you are playing any game and you are winning money out of that, and that winning is not because of your skill, okay, your skill should be there. Filling a puzzle word in the newspaper and you are submitting, in the magazine or newspaper you are submitting. That becomes a skill-based game. We are talking about not skilled. In this case, if you get any winning amount, that person who is playing this game will be called as a wager. And that game is what you call, that game is what? Agreement. That agreement is what you call as a wagering agreement. Law says if it is non-skilled based, will not call this as a contract at all. Law says don't call this as a contract at all. That's why we have the word, what is this? Wagering agreement. But when we say contingency, we say contingent contracts. Because contingency may or may not happen. Insurance contracts, இருக்கு. Insurance contract இல்லைனா LIC இல்லையா கரெக்டா? So it's valid. So contingent contract wagering agreements. So let us go for the first definition, first content with respect to contingent contracts. It defines as a contract to do or not to do something. If some event collateral to such contract does or does not happen. Okay. Before explaining, let me go for the first example. A contract to pay to B 10,000. எதுக்காக? If B's house is burnt. Okay, என்ன பண்ணலாம்? இது இன்னைக்கு நைட்டே பத்த வைப்போம். It's not that way, right? Maybe some fire accident. That's about insurance contract. Some fire accident or some ship வந்து drown ஆகுற case. This all can happen, right? So drowning or whatever it is. Okay. Maybe because of some natural calamity. இதெல்லாமே இருக்கலாம். The contract is to pay 10,000. I place a star mark because that's the main contract here. But why I pay 10,000? If the house is burnt. The house is burnt is becoming a contingency in nature. You agree with me? நடக்கலாம் நடக்காம போவேன். Like 50% or 90% or 95%, 1% ஆச்சும் நடக்காம இருக்கும்ல, மிச்சாச்சும் நடக்கும் இல்லையா, whatever it is. This becomes contingency and this event should be collateral. That should not be main one. Main another 10,000 rupees தரது. And something, why we give this 10,000? Something related to that event. This is what you call as a collateral event, and that collateral event happens to be a contingent event. Now we'll call this as a contingent contract. Let me go for the second example. A agrees to construct a swimming pool for B for how much? 80,000 rupees. What's the contract is here about? Pool கட்டி கொடுங்க 90,000 தரேன். இது நடக்குமா நடக்காதாங்கிறது என்ன தேவையில்லை. Definitely this will happen. So the payment is to be made by B only on the completion of the pool is not a contingent contract because constructing the pool is a very much thing contracted for. So it's not collateral. கட்டி தந்தா 80,000 தரேன். கட்டி தரேன் சொல்லுதான் அக்ரிமெண்ட் போட்டிருக்கீங்க. அப்ப கட்டி தரணும் தானே. புரியுதா? That's a very much thing. That's a main contract. So you will not call this as contingent contract. You will call clearly this as a valid contract. You will not call this as contingent contract. Whereas what was the first case? When will be 10,000? If house is burnt. If house is not burnt, no 10,000 will be given. Okay. We will call this as contingent contract. It's still valid. Okay. Let me clean the board. I'll come from the beginning. Please join. It will not be a tough thing and all because most of the cases will be the repeated examples. Not try to understand word by word. It's called as a contract. Okay. That contract is to do or not to do something. Some event collateral. How is it even defined? Collateral, not the main one. Collateral to such contract does or does not happen. If this collateral event happens, I will pay you the money. If this collateral event does not happen, I will not pay you. Because of this contingency, this contract is named as what? Contingent contract. Is it okay? So we are done with the two examples. Let me take over. Third one, contract of insurance, contract of guarantee, contract of indemnity are all contingent contracts. Okay, examples. They are all contingent contracts. When we talk about this contingency and contingent contracts, we need to check all these following conditions or what we call as characteristics. If all these things are present, we call this as a contingent contract. First one, there should be a contingency. And please make a note, is often repeated. Contingency should not be at present or past. It should be in the future. Past is not contingency. Okay. Present means it's happening. So we cannot talk about contingency. Something is going to happen in the future or may not happen in the future. That's why we call this as contingency in future. Okay. Second, we don't know whether it will happen or not, which means what? There is no certainty. 100% நடக்கும்ங்கிற கான்செப்ட் இல்ல. அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கும். Third one should be collateral, not the main one. And fourth one, it should be the mere will of the promisor. Promisor should be willing to go for this agreement. Else not. Because consent இருக்கணும்ல, offer இருக்கணும், offer இருக்கணும், acceptance இருக்கணும், எல்லாமே இருக்கணும். So let me go for the first example. A contracts to B to pay B a certain sum of money when B marries C. This is often repeated, especially CMA inter. A contracts to pay B a certain sum of money when B marries C. Okay. C dies without being married to B. Okay. So just a storyline. Try to understand. A contracts to B. Who are the contractual parties? A and B. What is the contract is about? To pay a sum of money by A. So A will be paying the money to B. Okay. Then B marries C. Okay. இந்த ரெண்டு பேரும் கல்யாணம் பண்ணிட்டாங்கன்னா A pay பண்ணும். C dies without being married to B. Marriage முன்னாடி இறந்து போயிட்டாங்க. Okay. Is a contract valid and enforceable? No. Because the contract becomes void when C dies without being married to contract valid கட்டேமா இல்லையே subject matter இல்லையே அங்க. Here the subject matter is not paying the sum of money. Subject matter is what? Subject matter is the object. B and C getting married. On the CA உயிரோட இல்லைன்னா it's not possible. Okay. So why you say this as contingency? Yes, if you ask this question, will B marry C? தெரியலையே அது அவங்க ரெண்டு பேருக்குள்ள இருக்கிற பிரச்சனை. Okay, B also might not be knowing, C also might not be knowing, and he also doesn't know. And A promises that if you marry C, then I'll give you more. So that's why I say this as contingency. Okay. Still here, the contract is contingent. Let me clean the board and explain it to you again. This is a contingent contract. But after that, the situation is quite changed. What is happening here? C dies without being married to C. So what happened here? No subject matter. So the contract becomes, just imagine A and B enter into a contract. A is in one land, B is in another land, another country. The goods to be sent by A to B through ship. Okay. What are the different things A and B may promise? See, A is selling the goods. What B has to do? What B has to promise? Pay for the goods. Because selling of goods. But what B does here is, I will pay the goods. ஆனா எனக்கு வந்து லோடு கையில வரும். Please try to understand because it's coming by ship. There's high chance of getting drowned or ship or oil leakage, fire ஆக chances இருக்கு. So many things can happen, right? So B says, if I get the goods in my hand, load in my hand, I'll pay you the money. இப்போ டென்ஷன் ஏக்குதானே ஏன்னா கைக்கு போய் சேரும். So what A does here is, he goes for an insurance contract. Okay. Actually, if you talk here, whether A will be paid, don't know. Why? Ship has to reach over there. The contract between A and B, selling and buying of goods, seems to be a very much real contract. But what B says, only after getting the load, I will pay. It becomes a contingency. A, in doubt, what he does is, he enters into a insurance contract with an insurance company. Now tell me, whether the insurance company will be paying the money? Shipla amchacha, no, I'm pay panira. You will not be paying. Then you will pay. I'm talking about insurance company. When the insurance company will pay. If the ship is drowned, when B will pay. When the ship is not drowned. Okay. It looks like two contracts are here. One is with A and the insurance company, and another one is A and B. Okay. With this logic, we'll discuss in detail. So the second example, A agrees to pay B a sum of money if a certain ship does not return. So probably this may be the insurance company. Okay. Don't think this B. This B and that B is different. இங்க என்ன சொல்றாரு? If the ship does not return, A will agree to pay. The ship is sunk. A refuses to pay. A can enforce the contract when the ship sinks because a contingency has taken place. Contingencies may or may not happen, and it has happened. Which one has happened? Ship varadadha happened. Correct? Ship vanduchana not happened. Ship is sunk. That's about the condition, right? Ship is sunk, which means the contingency has taken place, so they have to pay them. We'll go for the types. When we talk about different types of contingency, we'll talk about 5 different types. And among the 5, I'll classify this way. So one is whether the event has to happen, okay, or not happen. Okay. If it is happening or not happening, Is the time fixed? இந்த டைம்க்குள்ள நடக்கணும். இப்போ ஷிப் சிங்க்னு சொல்றோம்ல, சங்க் ஆகுது. Probably they'll be saying 3 months period. So insurance contract நீங்க பாட்டுக்கு you know about this shipping transport, it will go like place to place to place. ஒரு 3 மாசம் 6 மாசம் பிறகு எங்கேயும் போய் சேரும். It will go to land, which is country to country. அதுக்கு பிறகு எங்கேயாவது போய் சேரும்போது probably the goods might have perished. ஸ்டேல் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கும். ஆல்மோஸ்ட் லைக் ஃப்ரூட்ஸ் எல்லாமே போயிட்டு இருக்கும். அதோட வேலிடிட்டி இல்லைன்னா வந்து லைக் you know this air pack and all the different types of packages we have. Okay, for each and every commodity, we have a different types of package. And the package would spoil like remote. So many things has to be followed. So there also we have to go for insurance contract. So time has to be fixed. Time fixed up, not fixed time. So totally how many you will get? Happening, happens, and time fixed. Okay, I write TF for time fixed. Happening with time not fixed. Okay, next one. Not happening with time fixed. Not happening with time not fixed. புரியுதா? Competition and combination in all different ways. Okay. Happen does not happen. Not happen. Time fixed. Time not fixed. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fifth case is contingency where impossibility event is taking place. So totally how many contingent contracts we have? 5 contingent contracts, and we'll classify this 4 first. Happening of an event, the first category. A makes a contract with B to buy B's house if A survives C. See, no time is mentioned. See, no time is mentioned. Which means what? Time is not fixed. The contract is enforceable unless and until C dies in A's lifetime. What's the contract is here about? A survives C. அப்போ முதல்ல யார் வண்டியை போடணும்? C. See, that's what the contract is about. Yeah? Second, not happening, and they're not talking anything about time, which means what? Time not fixed. A agrees to pay B a sum of money if a certain ship does not return. The contract is enforced when the ship sinks. We are not talking about time at all. See, first 2 cases, they are talking about happening and not happening. They are not talking about the time at all. Is it okay? Now, coming to the third case, happening of a specified event within fixed time. Please highlight. ரொம்ப கன்ஃபியூசனா ஆக தேவை இருக்காது because it will be clearly directed in the question saying the time mentioned. A promises to pay B a sum of money if a certain ship returns within a year. See, it's mentioned. Returns within a year. The contract may be enforced if the ship returns within a year. After that, it becomes void. Okay. Fourth, non-happening of a specified event within fixed time. Yes. Third was happening. Fourth was not happening. A promises to pay B a sum of money if a certain ship, what was the case in the third one? Returns. What is the case over here? Does not return. Does not return or not happening. The contract may be enforced if the ship does not return within the year or is burnt within the. Is it okay? So that's about the fourth one. All these 4 cases, contingency is valid. Contingent contract is valid. But the fifth case, I place a star mark. When the event is impossible, definitely it becomes one of the essential for the possibility of performance. When you talk about the impossibility, this contingent contract will never be called as a contract. It becomes void in nature because impossible. A agrees to pay B 1,000 rupees if B will marry A's daughter C. Okay. Till here seems like what? Contingent contract. But what happened here? C was dead at the time of the agreement. Mistake. தெரியாம contract letter. No subject matter. So the agreement is void, a big issue. Is it okay? So fifth case alone, where there is no possibility of performance, you will say this is void. Other cases and all what per? Valid. Now come for the next topic before continuing wagering. What is given here? Please read it. Agreements. Contingent on impossible events will be void. Am I right? Agreements contingent on impossible events will be void. Is it okay? So one more point with respect to wager hand business. Shall I continue? So continuing with wagering. So whom do you call as wagers? Entering into an agreement where they are not using the skill for getting the money. When we talk about this definition, wagering agreement, it looks somewhat similar to contingent. Contingency என்னன்னு சொன்னோம், may or may not happen சொன்னோமா, இங்கேயும் அதானே, win பண்ணுவோமா இல்லையா, winning or losing. An agreement, there you say a contract, here you say an agreement. To pay money, please highlight. இங்க வந்து money involve ஆகும். அங்க money involve ஆகணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லை. ஒரு event involve ஆகும். That's a major difference. To pay money or money's worth on the happening or non-happening of a specified uncertain event which has the equal possibility of winning or losing. It's a பக்கா game அவ்வளவுதான். Okay, it's a பக்கா game. அப்போ see பக்கா game means they are completely relying on luck, not on skill. கரெக்டா? நடக்குமா இல்லையான்னு தெரியாது. See, I give you a coin and I ask you to toss it. Probably you may be an expert in tossing. You toss பண்ண அழகா வரும். இந்த dice எல்லாம் toss பண்ணிருக்கீங்களா? Dice இதெல்லாம் games எல்லாம் ஆடும்போது you might be having some trick to get the time and all. Okay. அந்த one phase எல்லாம் empty phase எல்லாம் அதுக்கும் you may have some trick. But the game is what is you are not going to toss a coin. I will toss a coin and I flip over and I close it and ask you whether it's a head or tail. What do you do? Head வரதுக்கு equal chance, tail வரதுக்கு equal chance. What do you do? சரி head சொல்லுவோம். ஏன் tail வரக்கூடாது? சரி tail சொல்லுவோம். It's like 50-50, right? That's why we say here equal possibility of winning on this. எங்கெல்லாம் that case நடக்கும்? Example, horse race, gambling, casinos. Okay, what else? Lottery. இங்க எல்லாமே skill based. Sorry, not skill based. Okay. First example, X and Y enter into an agreement that X shall pay to Y 1,000 if it rains on 26th January. If it does not rain on 26th January, then the other person has to pay. மழை பெஞ்சிச்சுன்னா நீ பணம் கொடு, மழை பெய்யலன்னா நான் பணம் கொடுக்குறேன். Okay, that's the game over. Okay. Second, A and B enter into an agreement in which A promises to pay 2 lakh provided cheetah horse. Okay, பேர் வச்சிருக்காங்கல்ல. நம்ம வந்து டாகுக்கு ரோசின்னு பேர் வைக்கிறதுல அந்த மாதிரி தான் இவங்க வந்து ஹார்ஸுக்கு சீட்டாக்கு பேர் வச்சிருக்காங்க. Wins the horse race competition. So it's not relying on your skill. You're relying on the horse's skill. Correct? So here, if this horse wins the competition, then this person will be paying how much? 2 lakh. So it's not based on your skill. Okay. Note, please highlight, it's quite very important. So when we talk about lottery tickets in Tamil Nadu, it is not valid. It's illegal to sell lottery tickets. But whereas if you go to the Kerala side, once border தாண்டிங்கன்னா முதல்ல அங்க பாக்குறது டீ கடையோ ஏடிஎம்மோ இல்ல லாட்டரி டிக்கெட் தான். சின்ன பேக் வச்சுட்டு எல்லாரும் லாட்டரி டிக்கெட் சேல் பண்ணிடுறாங்க. ஒன்ஸ் யூ கிராஸ் தமிழ்நாடு பார்டர், கர்நாடகா பார்டர், விச்சவர் பார்டர், இந்த கேரளா டச் ஆச்சுனாலே அந்த லாட்டரி டிக்கெட்ஸ் தான் இருக்கும். Okay. See, wagering agreements are actually void, but collateral transactions are valid. I am myself very much interested in horse race competition and all. Okay. ஒரு 2 லட்சம் ரூபாய் பந்தயம் கட்டலாம்னு சொல்லிட்டு நான் என்ன பண்ணேன்னா ஐ எம் நாட் கோயிங் டைரக்ட்லி, ஐ எம் சென்டிங் யூ ஆன் பிஹாஃப் ஆஃப் மீ. நீங்க சும்மா பண்ணிப்பீங்களா எனக்கு? நான் என்ன சொல்றேன், இன்கேஸ் வின் பண்ணிச்சுன்னா எனக்கு வின் பண்ணிட்டோ இல்லையோ உங்களை அனுப்புறேன்ல, ஐ கிவ் 10%. ஓகே, ஐ கிவ் 10%. So obviously this seems like a contract. So you go, you play the game on behalf of me, not on behalf of you. On behalf of me, not in your personal capacity as an agent of me. You go, you play the game, you did not win, which means what? I did not win. If the பணம் கொடுக்கணுமா இல்லையா? Law says you have to pay it. Law says collateral transactions are valid. இது gambling. அப்படி கேஸ் மாத்துங்க. A and B enter into a contract, smuggling, like I send you on behalf of me as a broker, commission agent. Okay. A கிட்ட இருந்து குட்ஸை வந்து B க்கு கை மாத்தணும். அப்படிதானே பேசுவாங்க. கை மாத்தணும். அந்த 10 ரூபாய் நோட் பாதி கிழிஞ்சதை தரணும். ஓகே, this is how it will go. ஓகே, எல்லாம் அங்க போய் ஒரு கோட் வேர்ட் சொல்லணும். எல்லாம் லைட் வச்சு காமிப்பாங்க. இந்த ஷிஃப்ட்ல எல்லாம் வருதுன்னா they'll show the signals and all. So this broker will get 10% commission. See, here also 10% commission you're getting. Here also 10% commission you're getting. But law says this is related to smuggling illegal activity. So this is considered as even the collateral transaction. Brokerage, giving the commission for the brokerage is a collateral transaction. It's invalid. But whereas law says in this case it becomes valid. Please find it. But this collateral transaction is still invalid in the case, the state of Maharashtra and Gujarat, because they are having their own state laws. They say it's declared as illegal. Okay, so wagering agreements என்ன பண்ணாங்க, state to state follow பண்ணுங்க. When you talk about smuggling, gambling, opium, கைமாத்துறது, இந்த மாதிரிலாம் வந்து drugs related, like what what are the specific chemicals you should not sell in the market. அதெல்லாமே வந்து எந்த கேஸ்ல வரும்னா complete central government குள்ள கீழ வந்துரும் whole of India. But whereas if you go for wagering case, it is not falling under the whole of India, it's coming under the state laws. That's why if you talk about Maharashtra and Gujarat, they are saying it's illegal, but other than Maharashtra and Gujarat, it's valid. We are not talking about wagering agreements are valid. We are talking about collateral transactions are valid. இந்த ஹார்ஸ் ரேஸ்க்காக எனக்கெல்லாம் நீங்க போடுறீங்கல்ல, நீங்க போறதுக்கு ஒரு பஸ் சார்ஜஸ் எல்லாம் அந்த கமிஷன் சொல்லிட்டு கொடுத்து அனுப்புறாங்க, that will be considered as that. Okay, right? Yes. So a broker in a wagering transaction can recover his brokerage. Money received by the agent on account of wagering transaction can be taken by the principal. Yes, you can refer this case a bit later. Okay. So let me take over. This also second D also can refer later. When we talk about crossword puzzles and competitions, please highlight you have to refer with competitor's solution. Okay. It is considered similar to lottery, then we consider this as illegal. Ma'am, puzzle then ma'am, competition then ma'am, how can you say this is illegal? See, we are not completely saying this is illegal if your answer has to correspond with the competitor's solution. Okay. Let me give a puzzle. First, 3-letter word. Okay. Second, the last two words are A and T. What is this? முதல்ல சொல்லுங்க. Fat. Fat. Hat. Rat. எல்லாம் ஏபிசின்னு சொல்லலாம். So 10 of you have given the answer. Seems to be a valid, meaningful words. I am the person who is conducting the competition. I am giving the word as sat. See, now we compare this one, lottery tickets. How the lotteries are, how you say the lottery is win here, 1 here. Every win condition solving, the number has to match. Correct? It's a 6-digit or 5-digit number, the number has to exactly match. The same like I say it's a 3-letter word, 1 letter, 2 letter and 3 letters. The last two are A and T. The first வந்து நீங்க என்ன வேணா போடுங்க, நான் ZAT வச்சிருக்கேன், எனக்கு ZAT ஓட இது மேட்ச் ஆகுது, அவங்களுக்கு தான் காம்படிஷன்ல வின் பண்ண மாதிரி சொல்லுவேன். Okay, so if this is corresponding, this solution is corresponding, I say you are winning the competition. Okay, பைத்தியக்காரமா இருக்கு. I am not talking about your skill. I am talking about whether your answer corresponds with my answer. Okay, so if this is the case, yes, we say it is illegal. Because you're not using a skill. Even though you're not, even though if you're using the skill, it's not matching. And another correspond competition solution or correspond outcome, which means it has to match. Third, an agreement to contribute towards plate. தருவாங்கல்ல, நீங்க நல்லா ஓடிட்டு வந்தீங்கன்னா மெடல், ஷீல்டு. ஓகே, எத்தனை பேர் ஓடினாங்க? 3 பேர். எத்தனாவது பிரைஸ்? நீங்க 3வது பிரைஸ். You need not worry. You got the prize. An agreement to contract plates, prize or a sum of money for a value of 5 lakh or about to be awarded to the winner of a horse race. Please highlight. For foundation level, it will not be that much tedious. For CMA Inter Group 1, you have to focus on these wordings. Usually, horse race is considered as illegal wagering, but when there is a sum of money or giving a plate or prize or any sum of money is involved, it is involving how much? 5 lakh or more. For the given as an award to the horse race winner means it's considered as non-wages. Usually, what question we get is what is the difference between wages and non-wages? This is also often repeated. If you go for wages, we'll have a list. Okay, wages na another. ரொம்ப simple, non-skilled. Now வச்சுக்கோங்க. Wages means non-skilled. Lottery transaction, yes, is illegal. Collateral transaction is also illegal. Speculative transactions, gambling, probably you have to settle the difference between the contract price and the market price that will be there. Cost-price transactions, price is less than 5 lakh. Please you can correct it. Price is less than 5 lakh, that's wagering. Because above 5 lakh is allowed. Non-wages, chit funds, yeah, beautiful. And இதெல்லாம் கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்களா? housing, national housing board, what they will do is you have to go invest a small amount of money. ரொம்ப பெருசாலாம் இருக்காது. You will be investing for some 5 years or 10 years and all. At the end of 10 years, you will get a small plot of land. Okay. Each and every month, what they will use, they will go for this lucky draw. ஒரு டப்பால வந்து நேம் or some number will be written in the sheet of paper and will be put it in a box and one number will be picked up. Okay. In case, probably, if you are talking about 10 years, okay, 10 into 12, 120 months, right? 120 months, you have to pay the installment money to get that small plot of land. But this is the first month. Usually, I don't think so. It will be done in the first month. First month, everybody has to pay the installment. Now, second month comes. Second month installment pay பண்ணதுக்கு முன்னாடி என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா, they'll go for this lucky draw. Probably they are taking a sheet of paper. இப்ப நான் random number technology இருக்கு. முன்னாடியெல்லாம் அதுக்குன்னு நின்னுட்டு they will form a meeting and they'll go and pick up a paper. Okay. On the paper, probably your name is there. Actually, the name will not be there. The numbering will be there. Okay. If your name is there, which means you need not pay the remaining 118 months installment. You pay the second month installment, you get the plot and go away. நல்லா இருக்குல்ல? சொல்லுங்க. இதை எப்படி நீங்க வந்து நான் வேஜரின்னு சொல்ல முடியும்? It's completely based on luck only, no? But we have separate law for chit funds companies, nidhi companies, and law says it's okay, no? Okay, law be okay, so which okay, sometimes need not be in the second month. Probably after 5 years also, many might be getting. After 5 years, there is a month where the lucky draw is going on, and your name is there. Why? Okay, obviously you need not pay the remaining installments. You'll get a plot of land. நிறைய பேருக்கு அப்படிதான் வீடு கிடைச்சிருக்கும் கேட்டு பாருங்களேன் ஒரு ஜெனரேஷன் முன்னாடி கேட்டு பாருங்க most of them might have gotten this way. So this is there in chit funds company. Game of skill that crossword puzzles. See, crossword puzzles not corresponding to competitor solution will not be considered as wages. Picture competitions, athletic competitions are non-wages. Price competition where the prize money is less than 1,000. Stock exchange transactions. This is often repeated by CMA Inter. Please make a note of it. When we talk about stock exchange transactions, like uh, buying and selling of shares in the secondary market, what we think is before this law, we have like SEBI laws and other laws. We were thinking it was completely a bogus fraud and an show. Okay. யாருக்கு லக் இருக்கும் அந்த மாதிரி கிடைக்கும் no it's not completely not that way so stock exchange transactions is the delivery of shares or goods is given and taken so it's completely treated as non-wages there is a complete law for that contract of insurance yes we have discussed contract of insurance is insurance contract contingent contract so in that case we cannot say it's wagering right okay yeah. So we can just go through this table yes ma'am. Can you please second question A entered into a contract for the supply of timber to the government. One of the terms of the contract was that the timber would be rejected. Please highlight. One of the terms of the contract was that the timber would be rejected if not approved by the superintendent of the gun carriage factory for which the timber was required. Okay. Government is supply under the main contract, but the condition is what? Reject ஆகிறதா accept ஆகிறதா வந்து யாரோட கையில இருக்கு சூப்பரிண்டென்டோட கையில இருக்கு okay. The timber supply was rejected. A filed a suit for breach of contract. Will he succeed? No, because it's rejected. நான் சப்ளை பண்ண சொல்லிட்டேன்ல அப்ப எப்படி நீங்க வந்து ரிஜெக்ட் பண்ணலாம்னு கேட்க முடியாது பிகாஸ் the condition itself is contingency தான் may be accepted or may not be accepted if accepted we will supply you have to supply if not accepted you cannot sue on us because it's not under a contract okay second one it's a beautiful question from second third one often asked for inter-level students. Nowadays for CA foundation also you have this descriptive type, right? So we may also expect this third one. Insurance contract is not a wagering contract. Insurance contract are contingent contracts. Fourth one, yes, please make a note of it. A took a bet of 500 with B. That's a certain horse would win a certain race. Who are the two parties here? A and B. Okay. Under the agreement, A had to deposit rupees 100 with B. Since A had no money, he approached his friend C, who advanced a sum to him on the condition that A has to return 200 if he won the bet against B, but to return nothing if he lose. நீ 500 ரூபாய் பெட்டு கட்டுற இப்போதைக்கு 100 ரூபாய் தரணும் 100 ரூபாய் கொடுன்னு சொல்லி கேக்குறீங்க சி கிட்ட சி என்ன சொல்றாரு நான் கொடுக்குற 100 ரூபாய்னாலதான் நீ வின் பண்ண போற நீ வின் பண்ணனா எனக்கு 200 ரூபாய் தரணும் because how much he's going to get because of this 100 500 because of this 100 you'll get 500 right So the contract looks like as if entered between A and B, but this is not the main contract. What is our contract here is taken for A and C's contract. Okay. Who is the two party entering here? It looks like A and B are entering, but what we are talking here is the contract between A and C. What is the contract between here A and C? To give 100, sorry, not to give 100, to give 200 instead of 100. A poll. If the bet is 1 against B, is not horse winning the bet. புரியுதா? ஹார்ஸ் வின்னிங் த பெட் வந்து ஏக்கும் பிக்கும் நடக்கிறது. இங்க பெட் யார் வின் பண்ணது? பிக்கு அகேன்ஸ்டா நான் பெட் வின் பண்றான்ல. See, what is the bet between A and B? Horse has to win, correct? But we are talking about A and C. What about A and C? A has to win the bet against B. அப்ப இந்த கான்ட்ராக்ட் வந்து ஏக்கும் பிக்கும் இல்லாம யாருக்கும் இருக்கு? ஏக்கும் சிக்கும் இருக்கு. அல்டிமேட்டா ஹார்ஸ் வச்சுதான். பட் ஏக்கும் சிக்கும் இருக்குது ஹார்ஸ் வச்சு இல்ல, பி வின் பண்றது வச்சு. Okay, so but to return nothing if you lose. So A won the best bet against B. Can C recover 200 from A? No, because it's a wagering agreement. Wagering agreement void, the collateral is void. Illegal. So it's a beautiful case. If you don't understand, go through once or twice or thrice. It's a different case because you have to understand and confusions are chances, especially interest students, please. Confusions are chances to note paniponga. If you still need more clarity, means we'll go one to one. Okay. Likewise, you can go for the fifth one. I'm not dealing now. Fifth one is a simple question. You can just go through. Okay. That's about this heading part. Probably I'll finish off this heading in contract. Okay. So almost done. Shall I continue? Void agreement. I have discussed. What do you mean by void agreement? An agreement not enforceable by law. Under the following cases, we have 10 cases. We can say the agreement is not valid. You just remember we have 10 essentials and 10 cases. Okay. So one is incapability of the persons. One is bilateral mutual mistake. One is unlawful consideration or unlawful in part. Please, unlawful object. Please remember it should not be severable. Severable na separate panna mudiyama irukkum. Okay. Agreements without consideration, agreements restraint of marriage, agreements which are having uncertainty, wages, contingency on impossible events. Please highlight not all contingent contracts are void. Only when impossible event becomes void. Agreement to do impossible acts and reciprocality is there where reciprocal promises, one of the promises illegal. Okay. This example, yes, please make a note of it. A agreed to buy a radio from B on hire purchase terms. A agreed to buy a radio on B from B on hire purchase terms. So you might be knowing what you mean by hire purchase, right? Hire purchase is another. Or still a certain installment working, we call this as rent. Okay, hire, rent, hire charges. And the remaining number of purchases. If you say, okay, you own the property means you'll call this as purchase installment. Okay. So the terms are not specified. See, when you talk about hire purchase, you have to mention what is the amount, for how many months you're going to consider this as hire, and for the remaining months you're going to consider this as purchase. All these terms have to be there. It's not there. It's not specified. Is that a contract? No, because the terms are not set. This is also often asked in the exam. Yes, we'll go for restitution. Restitution is if the contract is void or voidable in nature. I'm not talking about agreement. I'm talking about contract. What's the difference between void agreement and void contract? What is the difference between void agreement and void contract? It's not both the same, right? Void agreement where void contract where. What's the difference? We have to check whether all the 10 essentials are there for a contract to be a valid one. If you talk about the 10 essentials, minimum two parties, processes addendum, lawful consideration, lawful object, legal formalities, legal relationship, capacity, concern, certainty and possibility, all these 9 points has to be there while entering into the contract. And we say this will be valid contract. But during the execution, what's the 10th point? Not explicitly declared as void. Execute பண்ணும்போது valid. 9 points are enter ஆகும்போது valid. 10th point says during the time of execution it should be valid. For example, alien enemies எடுத்துக்கோ. Contract enter ஆகும்போது it was completely valid. But execute பண்ணும்போது there is a war between the two countries. அப்ப என்ன ஆகுது? You cannot execute because law says you are alien enemies. You cannot execute. அப்ப இந்த டைம்ல வந்து ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா என்ன ஆயிடும்? You cannot execute the contract, it becomes void. But you will not say here as void agreement. We'll say this is void contract because earlier it was valid, now it has become void, subsequently becoming void. So here, see, we are mentioning here void contract or voidable contract. This is the first condition, which means the contract is valid and now it has become voidable or void contract, and you have received any benefit, then that benefit has to be returned. That's what you call as restitution. So, like two conditions. முதல்ல என்னவா இருக்கணும்? Nature of the contract, void or voidable. Second வந்து ஏதாவது benefits வந்திருக்கும். Then you call this as okay. So probably you can just go through. I'll go for this third one. Third one would be quite appealing, easier. This is for the case of restitution. A pays 500 in consideration of B promising to marry C. Who is entering into the contract? A and B. What the contract is about? A will be paying 500 for what? If B marries C. Who is C? Your daughter. C is dead at the time of promise. So there is no subject matter. The agreement is void. Ilya, B must pay back 500 rupees. Is it okay? So this 500 rupees, in case paid by B, na, the benefit has to be. Is it okay? Okay, that's about why. Next class, I will be discussing with respect to quasi. Okay, so foundation today will wind up. We'll continue the next class. Thank you.